Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have a book review of Rush O by Shirley Barratt. Rush O is told from the point of view of Mary Davidson and tells the story of a small town whaling community in New Zealand. Some of the characters really existed, however the majority of the events have been fictionalised, and this story focuses on Mary in a year in which there aren't many whales coming, so that her father and his crew are having a very terrible hunting season, and it also follows Mary as she falls in love with this man who claims that he's a pastor, and whether he actually is, and there's some mystery surrounding him. It's been a few months since I read this book, so the details are a bit fuzzy even after reading Goodreads. However, I know that I didn't like this book. I returned to NetGalley after a few years of not having any books from them, and this was the first book that I got and I downloaded, and it was a disappointment. It just didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. The plot couldn't really decide what it wanted to be, and there were character deaths that were very close to Mary, and she just kind of glossed over them, and everything was told in this very Victorian tone, which I imagine, you know, because of the time period, that's an okay thing, but it just kind of detracted from the entire novel for me. There was no emotional depth, and even Mary's feelings for her family and this pastor who she's meant to be in love with don't really feel like they're coming to anything, and the love story felt like a romance just shoved in there because there weren't enough pages. And it's a common gripe that I'm having at the moment, in that things just feel forced in some novels, and this entire novel felt forced. It didn't seem to be doing anything. Like, the tension should be in the fact that Mary's father, who is a very big name in hunting in this town, is not able to hunt any whales because they aren't coming to the coast where they are, and it just doesn't feel like there is any tension. It doesn't feel like there is anything at all to worry about. It has a very steady pace, and it's talking about an aspect of the world that I didn't know about before. However, if you're trying to emulate Jane Austen, I'd recommend trying to do it well. And when we already have a very well-known story about a whale, you should probably not try to be Herman Melville or try to write Moby Dick, but just be aware that these things exist, which obviously the author does, but within the world it constantly felt bad. And I say this often, I say that books are bad, and this book, to me, was bad. It wasn't a good book for me at all. I didn't like the tone, I didn't like the pace, I didn't like the overall story, and I didn't like the fact that Mary didn't really attach to the reader or attach to any of the characters. She is a very detached character, which could have been something that Barratt was trying to do, but I really don't think she was, because there were these moments where it was quite emotional, but Mary had taken on this mother role that I could understand, but at the same time, I needed more. I needed less characters, because a lot of these characters are extraneous. Again, these characters aren't needed. These characters could be pressed down into one more complex character rather than having 50,000 people running around and not really giving us anything. And everything just kind of felt watered down, and it didn't feel like a fully fleshed, complete novel. It felt like this was the bare bones and I needed more. And although there were parts of the story that were humorous and I did find myself laughing, they weren't enough for me to say that this book was great and people should go and read it. I suppose I'm dismayed with this book because obviously it's on NetGalley, it was a book that I was interested in, and then it fell flat. There we go. The love story. In the blurb and everywhere, you keep seeing mention of this Pastor John, and he appears, and he is like one of these mysterious, brooding characters that we have in the classic Victorian novels, and you can appreciate that for what it is. However, it doesn't come to anything. and I know this might be spoilers, but it doesn't actually seem to go anywhere. And although there are like hints that these characters love each other and they're going to get together, and also the mystery isn't really resolved, there's a few questions there, and I know that I don't like my books to be completely tied up at the end, but I do need just some hint of what's going to happen with these characters. The book ends up, it will skip 20 years into the future and then come back, and then characters will die and it'll skip to when they've died and come back to when they're still alive, and it can end up being a bit confusing, but it can also end up losing the emotional connection that it's trying to give. Personally, I don't think that the deaths or going 20 years into the future really mattered that much, and there are characters that disappear and never return, and I wish that Shirley Barratt had stuck with this one story and worked on this one story about this one time rather than skipping about all over the place, because in the end it kind of ruined the book. I didn't enjoy this book, and if you happen to enjoy this book or wish to enlighten me further about it and your opinions, please do leave comments and we can discuss it. Until next time, that is all.